Jake Paul and Mike Tyson now have been suspended from boxing after controversial fight in Texas.
Jake Paul has finally been arrested, and it's about time karma showed up. He really thought he could keep scamming people without consequences? This time, Jake messed with the wrong crowd. Boxing fans don't forget, and they definitely don't forgive.
I think the whole thing was scripted. The whole thing was just a money grab. And for a lot of us,
Jake Paul's antics have finally caught up to him, and this time, he's facing a reckoning. Boxing fans aren't his TikTok followers. They'll strip away his ego and leave him swearing off scams for good. Let's be clear, this scripted boxing circus isn't his only crime against humanity. Jake's track record is a laundry list of frauds, from fake fights to shady schemes, all designed to exploit his so-called influence for profit. But now, the tables have turned. Those he's wronged are savoring their moment of justice. Jake Paul? More like Joke Paul. This time, the joke's on him. Let's rewind. Jake Paul's road to so-called greatness was paved with disaster long before this. Back in his Vine days, he wasn't just annoying, he was outright toxic. Reports of bullying, blackmail, and even police cases linked him to cyberbullying so severe it caused suicide attempts. Truly inspiring, right? Fast forward to 2017, and we get Team 10, Jake's dystopian YouTube collective. Except it wasn't a collective, it was a nightmare. Phones were tapped, members spied on, lives controlled, a cult with bad merch. And yet, he had the audacity to talk about hurting feelings. Jake's legacy? Chaos and exploitation.
At the end of the day, Jake Paul's fans got screwed while he got rich, but I guess anything to get that bag, right? We'll see how that excuse holds up in court.
The drama didn't stop there. Remember that infamous mansion? Neighbors called the police 47 times over explosions, arson, and other chaos. One girl was even injured during one of Jake's reckless stunts. But don't worry, Jake fixed it the only way he knows how, throwing hush money at the problem, no apology in sight. Classic Jake. Meanwhile, as he wreaked havoc on the neighborhood, he was inflating his views with bots. Up to 40% of his views were fake. His success? Just as real as his boxing career. Jake Paul, the king of chaos and counterfeit fame.
Somewhere in between these two extremes. He's not as dumb as you guys probably think he is, but he's also not as smart as he thinks he is. So, even though Jake Paul is going to try to hide his various crypto accounts,
the Doink token scandal is a prime example of Jake Paul's shameless greed. He secretly owned 100% of the tokens, hyped them up, then dumped them, walking away with $10 million while his fans were left holding the bag. And let's not forget his NFT disaster, a $4 million cash grab that vanished faster than his fan base when the FBI came knocking. As for boxing, Jake didn't step into the ring for glory or dignity. No, it was just another chapter in his sordid career of con artistry. Take his underground matches in Los Angeles, for example. These weren't fights, they were bare-knuckle laundering machines with bets soaring to $1 million per match. Jake turned the ring into his personal casino of chaos. 5 fighters left those matches with injuries so severe they may never fully recover, and one unfortunate soul outright disappeared. This isn't the story of a boxing legacy, it's the outline of a crime documentary waiting to be made.
at the end of the day, Jake Paul's fans got screwed while he got rich, but I guess anything to get that bag, right? We'll see how that excuse holds up in court.
Why stop at underground fights when you can rig official ones? Take the Ines and Gibb fight in 2020. It was as fake as Jake's humble beginnings. Rumor has it Gibb scored a $500,000 bonus to take a dive in the first round. Who needs talent when offshore accounts buzz louder than Vegas slot machines? Millions were allegedly funneled out before the fight even ended. And if that wasn't nauseating enough, 2021 brought us the Ben Askren debacle. Over $30 million in fake bets flooded the market, and Askren folded to a punch so weak it wouldn't topple a paper bag. Whispers of bribery turned into screams, but Jake kept strutting, confident his bank account could outpunch any accusation. The only thing he's fighting for is a bigger payday.
Jake Paul got paid 39.9 Ethereum for the Sacred Devils promotional scam, which you can see right here. It's worth $139,000, which puts him on the board, which later linked up with a huge ring of NFT scammers we busted, actually.
And then there are Jake Paul's extracurricular activities, the kind involving private planes and suspicious pit stops in cartel territory. Yes, you heard that right, cartel connections. His so-called training camps in Mexico conveniently included detours to areas infamous for banned substances. Coincidence? Sure, if you believe in fairy tales. Let's not forget the 3 convicted drug smugglers on his team. Jake's real training regimen? Evading the law while pretending to box. Honestly, his career isn't about fitness, it's about fitting as many scams as possible into one lifetime. Now, onto the piece de resistance, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. This one's a masterpiece of fraud. A leaked script revealed the entire circus for what it truly was, a clown show in boxing gloves disguised as a legitimate fight.
When you stayed home and you turned on Netflix that night, we were like, holy I'm about to see the greatest live sporting event of all time.
Tyson was reportedly told to pull his punches, moving slower than a tortoise in quicksand, all to make Jake Paul look half decent. This is the same Mike Tyson who once knocked out opponents in seconds. Right. His training videos showed a sharp, deadly fighter, but in the ring, he looked like he'd forgotten what sport he was playing. It was embarrassing, a masterclass in mediocrity designed to bolster Jake's delusional dream of being a legitimate boxer. The leaked script? Even uglier than Jake's boxing form. Every move was choreographed to frame Jake as some kind of prodigy. This wasn't boxing, it was theater, and not even good theater. The fallout has been glorious. Both Jake and Tyson are now tangled in lawsuits, with the International Boxing Association breathing down their necks. Tyson, who pocketed a paltry $20 million, is accused of throwing the fight to shield Jake's fragile ego. Meanwhile, Netflix, which streamed the disaster, is facing a class action lawsuit. Fans who paid for what was supposed to be a historic match got buffering crashes and a fight so poorly executed it begged to be pirated. Now those fans want their money back, and honestly, can you blame them?
Paul just got Netflix sued. People got a big problem with this stream cut now.
The internet had a field day, as expected. Hardcore boxing fans anticipating a clash of titans were instead served a lukewarm pantomime dubbed the world's most expensive reality show. Memes flooded social media, mocking Tyson for seemingly searching for his lost keys mid-fight and roasting Jake for posing instead of defending. If turning a sport into a comedy act were an Olympic event, Jake would take home all the gold. But ruining the sport wasn't enough, Jake had to bankrupt fans too. Allegedly, his scams and staged fights have cost fans over $200 million. When the FBI came knocking, they hit the jackpot, hard drives packed with evidence of shady transactions totaling $50 million, offshore money laundering schemes, and doping scandals large enough to fuel documentaries for years. Jake Paul isn't just a fraud, he's a walking, talking crime syndicate, dragging anyone foolish enough to work with him into his swirling vortex of deceit and chaos.
Is publicly tagged on OpenSea as the problem child, which is one of Jake's favorite names for himself. So this is kind of promising, right? You've got this wallet receiving $200,000 in SafeMoon, and then it sending that money over to something called the problem child on OpenSea.
Let's not forget how Mike Tyson, once the baddest man on the planet, willingly stepped into Jake Paul's circus and got himself branded as a co-conspirator in the biggest scam boxing has ever seen. Tyson's once pristine legacy now lies in tatters, tarnished by his association with Jake Paul, the undisputed king of influencer fraud. Together, they've shown that influencer boxing isn't just a joke, it's a disease, with Jake Paul as the virus spreading it. Yet somehow, through all this, people still call Jake a boxing prodigy. A prodigy of what? Fraud, manipulation, and exploitation? Jake Paul isn't a boxer, He's a scam artist who stumbled upon an audience gullible enough to buy into his lies. Every fight, every deal, every dollar is another chapter in his playbook on how to fool the world for fun and profit. So, Jake Paul getting arrested isn't just justice, it's karma, long overdue. If there's any silver lining to this mess, it's that maybe, just maybe, people will finally see him for what he truly is, a fraudster in gloves, nothing more. The world of boxing deserves better, and it's time for this charade to end.